said just now, right, the constant communication, while it may sound very generic, it is really something that is missing in most organizations. Let me explain a bit deeper what I mean by communication. Most of the time when you communicate, I think let's ask ourselves, right, what do we talk about? It's often just work, right? It's just, hey, any updates? How is it? Oh, this thing is not working out well. Can you please work on it? So on and so forth. Do we spend time communicating, understand what's happening back home for that individual? Do we spend time just to talk about the individual and not work to make sure that the person actually feels good about it, right? In particular, in such times where we are working from home, where there's a lot of uncertainty about maybe even job stability, what's ahead for 2021, where people don't expect things to really turn for the better just yet, for example, mentally, right, your employees are feeling very, very stressed. Obviously, all of us have certain level of stress to make sure that business is doing well. I understand as a business owner, right? But from employees' point of view as well, right, they too are feeling a lot of stress. Hence, increasingly what we see in the market when we talk about focus groups with business leaders, HR leaders, is that the mental well-being part is something that's increasingly an emphasis in a lot of teams. And for a lot of organizations, in fact, this has become one of the key focus when it comes to employee engagement. I always say that in the past, employee engagement is about excitement. How do I give perks, travel overseas, pantry? But now, the excitement has shifted to empathy. Excitement to empathy. So engagement has shifted towards empathy, where it's about how you care or the perceived amount that you care for employees. Do you show that their well-being is important? Do you know how they're feeling? Do they have an ability to tell you how they're feeling actually? And there's a feedback channel. So that is the shift that you need to think about when it comes to working from home, from excitement to empathy, which essentially is about caring for them.
It's quite interesting because in the past, you hear a lot of people who stays beyond 5 years. But growing trend itself, it sounds like, the question is more from a point of view that the life cycle, has changed from, and the talented, employees no longer stay more than a year in most companies itself. I think the question on this front is really or not, what kind of engagement, what kind of things can you do to retain them? Or is it okay to just let them go?
Okay, I'll answer in two parts, right? The first part is then I'd like to throw a question to our audience over here. First and foremost, what's important to you? Is it retaining that so-called talent, or is it more important to retain the value that they create? I think that's something I want all of you to think about, right? Because in a lot of organizations that we see, yes, you have people who are there for 20, 30 years, but sometimes these are people that you want to exit, but you have problem exiting.
That's true.
Right? And, building on the question itself, think about this as well, right? A follow-up question. Would you rather have someone, A+ player or team member that come in within 1 year to build up, something really amazing, scale up for you, and then leave it in a better hands for the next person to take over? Or would you rather have a C player who stays for 5 years, but constantly you need to, manage, and you need to kind of find issues with them, you need to have the conversation? Which would you prefer? So really goes back to the question, right? Are we retaining talent or are we retaining value? That's the first thing to think about. Obviously, we want to retain good talent who has high value perpetually, but we all know, even for MNCs, not only startups, it's not always possible, and it's highly likely not so possible, right? So that's the first thing I want to think about. And let's move on to the next part, which is your question: how do we go about retaining? How do we create culture? I think it goes back to, are you able to really align, what the individual is looking for with what you're able to offer? As simple as that. I mean, when it comes to employment, right, beyond that sense of purpose and stuff like that, to some extent it's a transaction, right? People leave because they're unhappy about certain things that's not working out, or something outside that's pulling them because it's more attractive, that fulfills their objective a lot more, whether it's faster or in a more concrete manner, for example. So first and foremost, once again, right, simple advice, it goes back to communication. Do you actually understand what your team member is looking for? Do you really understand? Or is it just I'm paying them a salary, I expect to get the job done, basically, right? I think that's a common thing that's happening, which is, I think while we all laugh about this, it's common, right? So do we understand what they're really looking for? A simple framework that all of you can consider, I call it MAPS, M-A-P-S. First and foremost is that people look at M, mastery, right? They want to become better and better at what they do, whether they're tech people, non-tech people. That's the first thing. Are you providing them with opportunities to learn, whether it's formal or informal? Are you helping them to become better at their craft? That's something to think about. M, the mastery itself. Second one, A, is then autonomy, right? So autonomy meaning, right, do they feel like they have a voice in the company, or are they constantly being stifled? Are they constantly just being following your instructions from top down, or do they actually have a say in certain things? Do they have certain freedom to experiment, to initiate certain things? Autonomy is quite important to people in different degree, obviously, right? Third one is then purpose, right? Is it aligned to what they believe in? Obviously, they feel like their purpose is aligned to your purpose when they join a company. That happens most of the time. But then along the way, are you constantly re-looking at this purpose? Are you constantly articulating this purpose to them so that they are reminded why did they join in the first place? So that's very important as well.
Got it.
Last one, S, sense of belonging. Do they feel like, okay, from a financial point of view, right? Do they feel like they're a number on a spreadsheet? Or do they feel like I'm really a valued member of the family? So that is something that you want to think about. MAPS, MAPS, mastery, autonomy, purpose, sense of belonging. If you are able to understand that, of course, in different degree, right? Chances are there's a higher chance you can retain them or at least motivate them to do more, basically. Yeah. So this is something for you to take away. Yeah.